All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you and just like me. All right, check this out. Pearls and Flames. Their album is called Reliance. I've been talking about this since middle part of last year. And if you like Toto, Foreigner, and Journey, you might like Pearls and Flames. Okay, that's the back cover. Here's the front cover. Courtesy of Pride and Joy Music. Pretty good record label for the most part. And if you like to hear all of the instrumentation, you don't want your ears to bleed, that would be Pearls and Flames. Same with Modern Retro Radio. You don't want your ears to bleed, go listen to modernretrofm.com. Speaking of bleeding ears, that version of Fins the Eagles did with Joe Walsh and lead vocals, I'm still recovering from that. Very similar to when David Lee Roth went to Las Vegas a couple of years ago and did that residency. Same kind of singing, folks, and really beneath the Eagles, beneath the memory of Jimmy Buffett, quite frankly. Now, Tim Schmidt did a fairly good job, an okay pedestrian kind of thing with Come Monday. Of course, he was in the Coral Reefer Band, so yeah, that made sense. And Joe Walsh, the party animal, putting on the hat and so forth, that made sense from a logistical, theatrical, visual kind of thing. It made sense there. But overall, this kind of proves a point about how I think people have really low expectations these days. They're not looking for perfection. They are out for entertainment. This is entertainment. I mean, you can go to Key West and probably hear somebody in a bar bang out those songs and do it in a much more authentic way. There's got to be somebody out there who can sing like Buffett, who's going to make you think, hey, that's just like Jimmy would have sung it, or this is like the Coral Reefer Band, or however you want to look at it. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of Jimmy Buffett tribute bands that are going to really take that legacy over and, keep the ball moving downfield. But in the case of these big brand bands that are out there, it's getting to the point where it's almost over. And I've talked about this before, and I think people have to come to grips with it. I listened to Don Henley on the Charles River in Boston back in 1985. And the show was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Henley vocally at full strength, great musicians, great material, solo material, Eagles material, just knocked it out of the park. I'll never forget it. And it was, during an age where that music, the new material and the Eagles stuff together was like the melding of the 70s and the 80s. And you can't get much better than that. And even though you didn't have the Eagles brand up on stage, it was amazing. I've seen Joe Walsh as a solo artist. He's great, plays all the James Gang stuff, plays all of his solo material, dips into some of the Eagles material. But Joe is one of those guys, that has probably passed his expiration when it comes to vocals. I mean, he never was this great singer. So my question is to everybody, I mean, how much longer can these guys do this stuff? And is it just nostalgia? Is it just because I want to see my favorite artist one more time? Yeah, I can forgive for that awful version of Fins, and maybe we can just, forget and drink $14 or $18 beer or $20, mixed drinks, whatever it is that they're serving at the concert, and it'll sound like 1982 again. But it doesn't. And this is the problem that we're in as far as the age that we're in, because we're watching all of these bands kind of, decay and slowly get to a point where it gets more and more difficult to say this is worth the price of admission. It isn't for me. It's not. I mean, someone could buy me a ticket for this and I would say, you know what? I saw Henley in 85. Nothing's going to top that. Now, I've never seen the Eagles together, but I think what I saw will eclipse what I would see. I'm sorry to say that. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, and I typically talk about these people like John Anderson, people like Mickey Thomas, Paul Rogers, and they continue to, just push against the time machine. Rick Springfield looks really good. Sounds pretty good for his age. Pretty amazing. Eric Clapton is out there playing shows. Pretty phenomenal. And I would have said that about Eric if I didn't do interviews with Eric Clapton. He's just an age-defying artist, both vocally and musically speaking. He's great. And there are a few more. I mean, the Stones just dropped a song, and they sound phenomenal. And Mick Jagger just turned 80 years old. So it depends on the band. But even with those, exceptions to the rule, we don't have a lot of time left with this stuff. So the promotions that go out there about this stuff is like, hey, this tribute they did was amazing. And I listened to it and I go, no, it wasn't. It wasn't amazing. You have to be honest with me. You can't just keep telling me that something is good when it's not good. People telling me how great Fleetwood Mac was without Lindsey Buckingham. I'm like, no. Neil Finn is a great musician. Mike Campbell is an even better musician, but putting those two guys in Fleetwood Mac did not make Fleetwood Mac better. I still missed Lindsey Buckingham. It probably made me miss him more and appreciate his talent more. The Eagles are not better without Don Felder, by the way. They're not better. They would be better with Felder. They would be better if they could get Felder to come back, maybe get Bernie Ledden to come back in, especially if they're doing a farewell tour. Steely Dan, Holding On by a Thread. They're opening up for the Eagles, by the way. Donald Fagen, not to be confused with Don Felder or Don Henley. He's the only guy left. Is Steely Dan better without Walter Becker? No. Does Donald Fagen sound like he did even 10, 15 years ago? No. And people have to come to grips with that. It's good that he's still around. It's good that he's willing to sing. He's carrying the torch for Steely Dan. He obviously must own the rights to the name. But we're going to get to a point where you're going to have tribute bands go out there and do a better show. They're going to sound more like the original. They're going to pay attention to detail in a more exacting, precise way. Whereas, the legacy bands, the bands with the names, the brands, they're going to go out there and they're going to say, hey, we're the brand, so deal with it, put up with it. You're seeing the authentic brand here. You're not seeing a cheap imitation over here. And we have these arguments all the time where people say, well, tribute bands are ridiculous and the original band is the way to go. And that's starting a little transition here as time goes on, and those of us who care are left to listen to what's going on out there. We're going to say to ourselves, you know what? The tribute band is better and it's cheaper. It's way less expensive. But Dave, this is an experience. And then you get to that argument like, I want to go see the show. Like if it's Kiss, I want to go see the show, right? And the show is more important than the music or anything else, whether they can still pull it off or not, because you're kind of engrossed in all of the visual effects and all the stuff that's going on to entertain you outside of just the music. But most of us got into this kind of music in the first place because we were listening to the radio and we heard great songs. And that's where we got this from. We didn't see a show. We hadn't seen anybody yet. We were listening. And then we went to see the show. And the show was primarily about the music. So as this age slowly kind of, dwindles and gets to a point where there's just going to be a few viable classic rock sounding bands out there, I think more and more people are just going to put up with it because soon it will be gone. And I guess that's really what people are doing right now. They're going to grab their tickets to go see the Eagles before they're gone. Same thing with Steely Dan. Same thing with Foreigner. Same thing with any band like Aerosmith. That's another band. They've said, adios, we're almost out of here. So in any event, folks, all that to say that I think our expectations have gotten lower. And this tribute to Jimmy Buffett kind of points that out to me a bit, that people are all excited about this, and I'm listening to it. I'm going, did people even listen to what I just listened to? Do they hear this? Because, it's not good. And I just feel bad for everybody. I feel bad for people getting old and not admitting that maybe they can't do what they once did. That's a problem. I feel bad here that the memory of Jimmy Buffett wasn't honored in a way that maybe it should have been honored. But again, there's some guy in Key West playing a guitar, and he's probably killing it. He's probably doing the greatest tribute to Jimmy Buffett ever. So I guess you can take a little bit of comfort in that. All right, Pearls and Flames, you can take comfort in this. This is comfort food music if you like Foreigner, Journey, and Toto. I like all three of those bands, so why not Pearls and Flames, right? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, folks, and Patreon. I'm trying to insulate the channel, right? So if I have a lot of patrons who are helping out with this content, I can keep doing this on whatever platform I wind up on. If something goes south, something happened to my other channel, and I'll be talking about that in the future, but not in this particular video. But I will have a link for where you can find my other content in the description of this video. I want to thank everybody who supports me currently and sends me messages really on a daily basis. I can barely keep up with this stuff, especially on the weekends. But I appreciate y'all, and until next time, see you then.